we're going to continue talking about the role of HR as you go through. A lot of HRM professionals are what we call generalists. In other words, they can handle almost any problem that comes walking in the front door as you go through. And so a lot of that is really a polished skill. It does give you a lot of variety as you go through in the process. A lot of the competencies, people don't have business acumen as you go through. A generalist, they get to hone that as they go through. There's 9 competencies developed by SHRM as you go through. The Senior Human Resource Management Certificate, they have 9 competencies. They measure you on a certification exam as you go through. And there's over, really, in that case, it's got over 300,000 members in it. It's not a bad idea to sit down there and pursue that, to sit down there and add that to your resume as well, because people are going to be looking at that. Generally, if you look on this, there are 9 different areas. You have the HR technical expertise and practice. You have that an awful lot. And business acumen, what we mean by that is to understand the functions and metrics within that organization, sometimes the industry, and ingrain that in the employees. You really want to bring forward your best game. We call those a benchmark. And by benchmark, we mean the top of the line. So what is the best practice over here? What does Google do over here? So pay attention to what Google does, and maybe you want to copy some of their best practices, or if they're the best in the industry, their benchmark as you go through. A lot of it is critical evaluation. Make certain that the investment and the impact on the organization is doing well. And when you're investing in an employee, that's a huge dollar investment. If you're paying somebody $200,000 a year for 20 years, that's really a $4 million investment in the employee as you go through. You better pay attention to who you're hiring in those high-level jobs as you go through. Make certain there's ethical practices happening. Now, there's a couple of reasons. Number one, hopefully your company is going to be ethical. Sometimes that actually happens. But the other part is you might get sued. And by the way, if your company gets sued, especially about ethics, where somebody's violating different policies and practices of the organization or the federal government or the state government or different rules or whatever, you will be involved right in the middle of it. It is HR is the one that calls a lot of shots when it comes down to, is the employee acting appropriately or inappropriately? If it's inappropriately, HR also is called upon to lead the charge for formal disciplinary action to make certain that you correct aberrant behavior as you go through. Cultural and global effectiveness as you go through, you got to make certain that you're really doing a good job across the entire planet. And sometimes you'll have different cultures you'll have to pay attention to and be careful. It's not just the people down the street. Now you're dealing with somebody that has brought up an entirely different value orientation, and make certain you're treating them. I was going through and talking with somebody, and a friend of mine, and she pulls out a driver's license, and she's a dual citizen of the United States and Egypt. On her driver's license, it says there that she's a Christian. Okay, that's in a 90% Muslim country as you go through in Egypt. That being said, they can legally hire people based upon the religious faith. That can't happen over here. Okay, you can never do that. If you sat down and said, well, what's your religious faith? Okay, you need to be fired here in the United States. That doesn't happen in other countries as you go through. So HR needs to be cognizant over the fact that there's different cultural aspects of it, not just in Egypt, but across numerous different aspects of it as to how people make decisions. You want to make certain that you're being professional and respectful of their values and their culture as you deal with a global base rather than just an area base in the process. Communication, if you have effective communication, it works 2 ways, by the way, not just 1 way, but you got to make certain that it's clear as you go through. We'll talk more about communication later on, but that being said, you got to make certain the stakeholders or the people that are involved and impacted by the company, especially by the human element of the company, that good communication is taking place. A lot of times HR is involved with leadership and navigation as you go through, and a lot of times we're also in the consultation process. And then lastly, that relationship. That's a big deal, making certain that people are getting along well in the relation with the interactions between managers, leaders, and also the employees, that you have a lot of good talks about that. And so, and that really, believe it or not, is a huge part. In my mind, I've always made certain in my HR departments that I felt that HR was a safe haven for people that had something, especially a concern that dealt with any kind of inappropriate conduct, that they were felt safe to come there as you go through, and HR would advocate that. Now, sometimes they come with a concern and they could be at fault themselves, but anyway, there should be a relationship with HR with the people that it serves as you go through. So know the 9 different competencies. We're going to be talking about them the rest of this course. They're going to pop up on a test or so as you go through, but make sure you have an idea what's involved. It's a huge, broad spectrum because there's humans in every part of the organization as you go through. And by the way, we call it human resource management. Take care.